Okay, well, thank you guys for attending our Zoom meeting with the WCE Alumni Network. We present to you guys Through the Lens, a monthly web series discussing the business solutions of entrepreneurs. Without further ado, I have amazing alumni of the Wolff Center of Entrepreneurship program. I first have Queen Olivia. If you can describe to me just a 30-second pitch of who you are, what you represent, where you're from, and also, if we can, just talk a little bit about your experiences with life after WCE, if you're okay with
Yeah, of course. Whatever Queen Jordan wants. So, hey, y'all, I'm Olivia, class of 2015. Was not born in Houston, but raised in Houston, went to Houston Katy schools, ended up at U of H specifically for the Wolff Center. And now I get to call everybody on this call my Wolff family and friends. So very blessed with that. I grew up in the skilled trades and home services industry. And so from high school on, I was involved in my family's electrical business, which is a locally owned franchise called Mr. Sparky. And then did some opportunities after, like throughout college, to really learn marketing and some of the things I was really drawn to. And then came back into the business. And then we actually just launched Just Fix It this year, which is focused in air conditioning and heating for residential services, so for homeowners. And kind of our value proposition, if you will, is just kind of cutting through a lot of the BS that exists in the industry with straightforward, simple solutions that people can really understand, be informed and educated to make the best decisions for their homes at great, reasonable prices with great service. So that's Just Fix It, and that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, thank you so much for attending. We're so happy to have you here, so thank you again.
Thanks, Jordan.
Okay, next, my classmates, Miss Lauren. Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Awesome. I'm, again, Lauren Jefferson, WCE class of 2016. I was actually born in England, raised in San Antonio, and then moved to Houston like Olivia for the Wolff Center, and started my career off as a digital marketer, learned everything that is needed to know in the digital marketing world, but I realized very quickly that copy does 80% of digital marketing. So I'm kind of a recovering digital marketer turned copywriter, and just recently celebrated our 1-year anniversary of FocusCopy, which is a B2B copywriting firm that partners with entrepreneurial companies to better communicate how they transform their customer lives.
Well, that's definitely awesome. So this is going to be a question for you specifically. What was your favorite class at the Wolff Center for Entrepreneurship? You don't have to put anyone on the spot, but I'm sure everyone has their class that they learn and obtain great knowledge from, that they look back and like, dang, I really enjoyed that class.
Absolutely. It's probably the second semester, the capital class with Ken Jones. And I know he's not in the program anymore, but that definitely stuck with me.
That's good to know. And so next, we have Mr. Alex. Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. So, hey, I'm Alex de la Fuente. Graduated from the Wolff Center in 2015 along with Olivia. And actually, I think I'm sort of the oddball here because I was born in Houston, grew up in Houston, and went to U of H and had no clue what the Wolff Center was whenever I started at U of H. It wasn't until I think my sophomore year that I found out about the program. And at the time was running this t-shirt business, and I was, in my head, I was like, that's perfect. That's where I need to be. And so then following the Wolff Center, spent a small, stint in the commercial banking industry. And then most of my career has actually been in getting startups off the ground and getting them accelerated and helping them grow. And so I actually went back to work at U of H for a little while at the Red Labs program, which helps tech startups get off the ground. And then worked at Station Houston downtown for a little while, and then left to start my own web development business. And so for a while I was freelancing and just still working with those kind of tech startups and helping them design and build their websites. And today it's grown to where I've got, a small team with me, and we have graphic designers and full application developers. And so now we're able to help companies put together their full brand. So their logos, brand guides, mobile apps, slide decks, sales and marketing materials. So anything that needs, that visual identity, we help make for our clients.
Now, I know prior to us starting this interactive series, we talked a little bit about COVID. So for all of you guys as businesses, how have y'all been doing since the pandemic started? Have y'all had to adjust? What are some things that you have learned along the way? And maybe some inspiration for the future. Maybe we can dive into that in the future. What are y'all hoping to get out of COVID and the pandemic? And we can start with anyone. Whoever wants to raise their hand, they can get started with that.
Looks like I lost that one. As far as COVID, I mean, we, and Alex and Olivia, I know him, Joe Wilkinson, he was an adjunct professor. He always taught me, put your ear to the ground and listen. Look at the strangest places to listen and see what the market is doing. And so I was kind of preparing for COVID and a complete shutdown several weeks, if not like a month or two before. And so I was kind of expecting that. And as soon as rodeo was canceled, that was kind of the big indicator, like, okay, we've completely shifted gears. And so we had probably about a dozen proposals out. And I was driving back from a client meeting and I'm like, I just lost every single one of those. And we were only, 9 months into our company, or even less than that. And so that was going to be a huge hit for us. And of course, I called all of them. They said yes, but after COVID, well, COVID's still not over. And so it was like, okay, we need to pivot. We need to pivot fast and figure out what's going on. And so the number one thing that we did after that was focus on our existing clients that were paying us monthly and making sure that they were all stabilized and they were doing well. And a lot of them, I mean, we had a 20-year-old company that had their worst March ever in business. But then just with copywriting, we were able to turn around their business and help them pivot what they were doing, especially online, to where they had their best April and May ever in business. And so we started, focusing on our clients, and then we, started partnering with other agencies, other different types of people that may not be strong copywriters, but still need that copywriting arm. And that's been a huge game changer. And we foresee continuing that throughout the entire tenure of our company.
So talk a little bit about your specific customers. Who are you marketing to specifically?
Yeah, we target service providers. So entrepreneurial companies, whether they're a solopreneur or whether they have a small team that offers some sort of service program. So that could be coaching, that could be consulting, any type of service provider. So IT companies is a big one of them. Olivia's company could definitely be a service provider for us because they're providing a service, not a product. And then on the flip side, we also work with a lot of marketing agencies, so like Alex and web developers. And so we kind of tailor to both of those parties, to where if a company isn't quite ready to work with the marketing agency or a web developer or someone big and fancy, we can help get their sales up to a point just by focusing on their copy to where they can invest in those companies. So that's kind of our value prop for the marketing agencies. And then, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that don't want to invest in that quite yet or at all. And so we focus on their copy, optimize their time spent on their content development, on their sales, pipeline strategy, and, getting into the actual copywriting, which is the longest part of marketing. So we take that burden off of our entrepreneurs.
And just from experience, me being in law school, copywriting is very specialized. It could be complicated to most people, copywriting and trademarking. So for you, tell me a little bit more about that aspect of copywriting. What made you decide, this might be the business for me?
Yeah, so two different types of copywriting there. So you're talking about copyright and trademark protection, which is legal. I'm not a lawyer. I don't do that. So copywriting
okay.
is all of the words on a website, on a brochure, on a landing page. Literally, we are just writing words, and that's all we do. We're writers. So completely different thing there. And, you know, I said kind of in our intro, started as a digital marketer, and I realized if I didn't spend enough time on my email marketing copy, all the campaigns would fall absolutely flat, and it would be, you know, sending out 27,000 emails that just didn't hit at all, and you have a huge unsubscribe rate. And so that's when I started really looking into copywriting.
Well, I thank you so much for sharing the difference for me and other people who might need more information about that. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're going to get to that a little bit later. I'm going to get back to COVID. Olivia.
Perfect.
Next. I didn't want to skip you, Alex. Hope you don't mind that I went to Olivia.
He would have insisted, right, Alex? He would have insisted anyway. So, okay, remind me, Jordan. So,
COVID.
Just kind of like how, just COVID, just in all aspects. Okay, so we expected, in our industry that people wouldn't want folks in their homes. So we were ready to kind of weather the storm. Turns out people are like, those ceiling fans that have been sitting in a box in my garage for 2 years, I would like to install those now. Or, you know, people are running their air conditioners all day, whereas they used to set the thermostat higher when they went to work, right? So we've been busier than ever. So that's kind of on the consumer front, on the demand side. On the pivoting internally, that's been really interesting because I feel like we've made some investments in the business in the past year for other reasons that we would have never anticipated would prepare us for where we're at now. So for instance, we got with a new CRM in 2019. That's an industry cutting edge CRM for home services companies. And they immediately, upon COVID starting, created new features for contactless service so that homeowners could approve our services and pay without having to touch our tablets. We also got all our phone system onto soft phones rather than it being the hard phones in the office. So everything, our entire call center is on the internet, is in the cloud. So we could take our entire office staff remote very quickly, which we thought was cool because if Harvey ever happened again and people couldn't get to the office, well, you know, we'd be good for a few days. We didn't know it would be months, but we were, you know, with a little bit of work, we were there. We'd also been documenting all our standard operating procedures in the cloud. There's just lots of things we were doing to try to be, you know, just more innovative in general, and more just more innovative that have really paid off. And then with the marketing side, just to bring it back to digital marketing, it's just been all about really understanding where our customers are at, which I know Lauren's just like all about, you know, what are their needs right now? What are their expectations? And how can we make sure we're communicating that we're prepared to meet those? So it's been wild.
My question for you, for Just Fix It, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Who specifically are your customers? Who are you working during COVID? Who are your customers?
Yeah, so I think that's a good distinction too, because typically our customers are people who are homeowners who call tradespeople when stuff breaks, because otherwise, who cares? I don't care if my smoke detector is yellow. I just am going to care if it goes off in the middle of the night, and then I want you here in 5 minutes, right? So that's been the majority of our customers historically. And we've seen a shift to people who are wanting to do more proactive projects and who are wanting to really invest in their homes during this time, not from a standpoint of come fix this right now, but like, I'll book 2 weeks out, that's fine, which we've just never ran a schedule with 2 weeks worth of appointments that I've been in this business for 10 years and I've never seen that. So
that pretty much, I mean, because you not necessarily have a new clientele, but it's something where people can eventually do monthly service maybe. they're trying to book 2 weeks in
Right.
advance.
It's just like an entirely different type of client experience. And so we still have a finite amount of resources, like in technicians and tradespeople, which are at a shortage in our country and in all over the world. So we're trying to still meet our brand promises of being there when you need us, when you're having an emergency. But we also had somebody book an appointment 2 weeks before, but it's only for ceiling fans. So who do we run? The person without power, whose panel got knocked off their house yesterday when a tree branch fell because of a storm? Or do we go to the person that has their COVID project that they booked 2 weeks ago? So these are the types of, which we call good problems, we've been having to figure out. And we've got a great team that's just been rallying around those problems and figuring out how to maintain our standard of care, but also meet the market, meet the market's different needs and use our resources as smartly as we can.
Glad that y'all are all able to adapt during these times, because we see a lot of businesses that are not finishing strong, or they're living paycheck to paycheck with regards to paying their bills for their business. So I'm so glad that y'all are adapting. It's good problems.
Yep. Good and it's like what I tell people, like, what did you learn in entrepreneurship in your entrepreneurship degree? I'm like, they just threw us into situations where we had no idea what to do, and then we had to figure it out. So I guess this is what we were trained for. I don't know.
Good point.
Thanks, Dr. Blair, Dave, and Ken.
Good point. And so now we're going to Alex. I'm saving the best for last, maybe. I don't know.
No, you're not. But so COVID, our business is, I'll bet probably ebbs and flows the same way that Lauren's does. In that as soon as, stay at home orders began, and there was a lot less foot traffic, everyone realized they needed a digital presence. And so we saw new orders left and right for new websites. A lot of our retainer clients needed all sorts of new sales materials because they realized that they're not going to be doing sales presentations in person anymore. So now we need like decks and pamphlets and all sorts of things we started making for our clients. So we were extremely lucky that we just happened to be, in the digital services industry. And all of a sudden that whole, anything that was like digital services just exploded, I think, at that moment. Things have started getting a little bit more, sustained growth, things like that. And so we're still growing. We've been extremely lucky. I don't think we made any meaningful pivots in our business since the start of COVID. We actually, at the start of the year, we had some offices that before COVID, we actually decided to move out of, just because we realized, for what we do, we don't really need offices. And frankly, I prefer to work remote. And so I didn't want an office anymore, which was nice because we had all of this office furniture that we had already bought. And so I actually sent, all the employees, like, we got like a U-Haul movers and, shipped all of the desks and everything to everyone's home. So everyone already has, an at-home setup. So we were pretty well prepared whenever COVID hit. Other than that, it's like more meetings are on Zoom than in person, and that's it.
Sorry, Alex, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think I'm more so in terms of your team. How many people are a part of your team? So it's accessible for you guys to go remote, easy for you to go virtual. How was that process with your team?
It was extremely easy. The thing is that the way that our daily workflow works, by nature of, I design and code websites. I've got Ricky, who's a graphic designer and illustrator. And then I've got Czar, who is an app developer. And we also, we're sort of a team of 3.5 at the moment, because we're contracting a girl named Carol Tiger, who's just a badass product manager. And so she's been helping us internally with our, trying to line up our user experience or customer experience and all those sorts of things, but then can also jump in with our clients to try to help them figure out what's the next most valuable thing that Spacecraft can do for them. But the way that our workflow works, it's usually we touch base, twice a day. And otherwise, everyone has their own list of tasks for the day, and we all just kind of work through those. But it's a bummer to not be able to see everyone as often. But for the most part, it hasn't affected our workflow or anything like that.
So it goes back to good problems. You're having good problems in terms of adapting during this time rather than try to adapt to finances, pretty much.
Good problems, yes. Other non-COVID related struggles, but as far as COVID goes, good problems.
Okay. So moving forward, the topic for today is more so marketing, the importance. Lauren, you're in my class. You were great at marketing. That's what you were specialized in. How did that help you moving forward after life in WCE? Because we were thrown into everything, like Olivia said. How have you had to adapt with marketing? What were your focuses after WCE?
Yeah, well, I've kind of had, and Olivia knows a lot of the story because she's kind of in it, just a little bit. So it was the second semester of Wolff Center, Jim Wilkinson actually hired me to be his marketing intern, and Olivia had been there for quite some time. It was probably over a year. Olivia can jump in here. And so he taught me literally everything I know about digital marketing, and I learned a lot on the job, did a lot with that, and worked with him for another year and a half before I graduated from U of H and actually became his director of marketing. Unfortunately, I was only his director of marketing for 6 months before he unexpectedly passed away. And so that's when really all of the education that I learned in Wolff Center really came to play, because all of a sudden we didn't have a leader. And then the other lady had left because she had worked with Jim for 10 years and was completely heartbroken. And so I'm there with the attorney who doesn't know anything about marketing. He's telling me just hold the company afloat. And I'm like, okay, what can I do with the very limited time that I'm actually being able to work on the company and keep that afloat? And so thankfully, with everything that Olivia had built, all the other interns before me had built, and then what I had built, we were able to sustain the business, and we actually grew throughout those 5 months before we got the buyer. And of course, Hurricane Harvey came. That nearly threw off the acquisition because the buyer had to evacuate. He was by the Brazos River, and so we got the acquisition, and I helped stay on through the entire acquisition, and then beyond about a year and a half. So got a lot of real world experience of how to run a company, what it actually looks like to be an entrepreneur, but then also on the digital marketing side, how to build a brand that people from all around the world actually want to be a part of. And we had clients we had this online membership teaching financial leaders how to be financial leaders. And we had 20 different countries represented in that platform. And so I was interacting on a daily basis with people from all around the world, understanding what they needed culturally to be able to be successful. So it was really neat to be able to create content, strategize, keeping in mind what all of these individuals need to be successful in their role. And so we did a lot of content marketing, even more email marketing. We had, we grew our list from, I think when I started, we had about 6,000 emails, and we grew it to over 27,000 by the time I left and started FocusCopy. So we did a lot of different things over there, but a lot of lessons.
And so for those that are potentially watching, what specifically was the business that you were gaining experience from?
Yeah, it was a strategic CFO. It's a financial consulting and advisory firm for CFOs. So it's a 20-year-old company, still rocking and rolling today. Thankfully, Jim's legacy is continuing on.
Right. And I'm glad that you were actually, oftentimes when you're after WCE, it's hard to navigate. So you having the opportunity to, go to transitioning into a business that you were able to gain knowledge with marketing, branding, content management, all these different things. I'm sure it was hard during the acquisition, but you made an impact. I know you were making an impact.
Absolutely.
know,
it's not easy. And Olivia's heard a lot of the conversations, a lot of the hard conversations and tearful conversations after that, because, you know, how do you run a business when the founder is not only your professor and mentor, but also now your friend, and dealing with all of that. And oh, by the way, I was also a newlywed during that. So that was a whole nother
Lauren was an incredible steward of Jim's vision all the way through all of that. And it was beautiful to watch her. Just it's sentimental because Jim is part of the Wolff Center family. You were just incredible through all that. So just shout out to you. You were amazing. So thank you.
Going back to, you know, marketing, you said it best, Olivia, just now. You know, how do you follow through with someone else's vision? You know, how do you follow through? Because he had a wealth of knowledge, and you coming in and fulfilling his vision to transition to acquiring different things. That, I'm sure that was hard, but you were able to come in and follow through with his vision so that the legacy continues. So shout out to you, Lauren, for that, because I'm sure that was hard during that time, but you made it through to another business.
We made it through, and one of the big things, you know, continuing the legacy, and we didn't actually have this in strategic CFO, but it's something that we've kind of built into our company process, is we actually build a brand voice guide for every single client. So it's literally a documentation for how to talk like our clients so that they can continue. And so one of our clients, they're even retired, their founder of the company is even retiring. And so we've created this voice to where the entire company can still communicate consistently even after the founder has retired and it's passed on to her daughter. So it's been a really cool thing to take what I learned from that, and even if it was unofficially, and translate it into something that we now deliver to every single client that works with us.
You're blowing me away, Lauren. I don't know. I'm learning more about you, and I hope that everyone who's listening can take more into, like, you're using your abilities and your experiences to your next building or business building, other ventures. You're using that. So, I mean, wow, I didn't even know that. I didn't know you were doing that for your customers. That builds that relationship for them specifically, that they will always come back because it's specialized. So good for you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Moving forward. Now I'm going to go to Alex, because I'm going to skip you a little. Yeah, you see?
Now you're saving the best for last.
So Alex, we're going to go back into the importance of marketing. Life after WCE, how was that? And the tools that you use towards digital marketing for your business, how was that?
Yeah, so, you know, it's interesting. Immediately after WCE, I was working at the bank, and I was not doing anything related to digital marketing. You know, it's kind of interesting. All of this, like, web design and development, it's actually just something that was a hobby of mine that I started during high school. And it wasn't like a trained practice in, like, how do you route someone through a website properly. It was just, you know, I had fun trying to come up with a cool design and then turn it into code, right? That was just something that I had fun doing. But then after I left the bank and I started working with these different accelerator programs, and, you know, understanding what it takes to get that first customer, and then what it takes to grow that customer base, or understand that, you know, even though we might be getting these customers, these are some signs that actually maybe we want to change direction and look over here. Learning those things helped influence, you know, on the side, whenever I was just finding excuses to make a new website, helped influence how I would think through design. And then, you know, fast forward a little bit to where I'm working at Station Houston. I basically found myself staying late. If you're unfamiliar with Station Houston, it's a private incubator space downtown. And so I would find myself just kind of staying late and helping out the companies there, or, you know, coming in on weekends, and just getting pulled into their marketing meetings and talking through web design and things like that. And it's kind of interesting. There's a podcast that I heard a while back that had Chris Sacca, who's a famous angel investor, talking. And I remember one of the things that he said was, especially in those early days, whenever you're sitting around the table with the founders and you're trying to think through like a marketing or a sales strategy. And he's like, I don't know anything about marketing, but then, I look around the table and it's kind of like, well, I guess actually I sort of am the expert here on marketing, considering that everyone else in the room is an engineer or developer or something. And so it got to the point where some of the founders at Station would just start saying, we want to pay you to do this for real, build our website. I managed to get enough of those deals going that it was enough that I left my job. And even then, I think whenever I started, I wasn't great at understanding the digital marketing piece. I wasn't great at the analytics and the forward thinking, routing people through the website properly. That it came with trial and error. I definitely have made some clients unhappy. And I think if you're in this line of work, especially freelancing, like it's going to happen. And I think there's definitely websites where I built it 2 years ago and now I'm kicking myself for the way that I built it because, I've learned so much about it that now I'm having to go back and fix my mistakes from 2 years ago. But, it's all of those things. It's always been a learning process. And the more, I've been lucky that I've seen so many different businesses and seen the process go through so many times. You learn a little bit each time and that sort of influences the next project.
Now I'm gonna tell you about coding. I actually in high school was doing coding, computer science.
Hey.
No, it's I honestly during undergrad was thinking about doing computer science and coding, but that's very technical. And you again have to adapt and evolve because I thought I was good until I looked at someone else. I was like, I don't know what you're doing. I really don't understand. And so you're actually able to evolve over time. So don't kick yourself too much because now you're able to recognize from your past, okay, dang, I did this. However, at least you're able to recognize your mistakes now, There's going to be a lot of people I feel that definitely businesses that might need website hosting or just ideas on coding, they can come to you.
That's true. Yeah. And I'll say too, like what I've done is the hard way, right? Like there's much better ways to learn code than to do it for 15 years and get it wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong before you get it right. There's much better ways to learn, but thank you.
Entrepreneurs have to always have the no's before they get to the yeses. So you're getting there and I applaud you for that. Now moving forward, I heard you saying, with the Station Houston, you were able to listen into the marketing meetings. How important was that? Because, being able to say, you know what, I want to stay a little bit longer outside of what I'm expected to do. I want to actually go to these meetings and really put myself in a position to network with others and actually learn a little bit more from other people. And so going back to, how important was those meetings? Because you talked a little bit about that. But for those who might not know you, because I know you've been proactive, how important is it to take the next step to actually go to different meetings and put yourself out there?
Extremely. I mean, that's everything. At the time, I wasn't thinking about it as, I'm, leaning in or anything like that. It was, the people who I was at first, they were my friends, right? And so it was sort of funny at Station. There was sort of like the daily crowd, the people who came in to work on their business during the day. And a lot of them were fine businesses and everything. And then you had the night crew that would come in, these are now the founders who have a full-time job somewhere else and are coming in and staying up all night to work on their business. And they were usually just more fun to be around, I think. They're like, that is the hustle time. And so it wasn't that I was, butting in. I was butting in, but we were just hanging out and we were all just working and being busy. And I would just kind of sit down with them and they would be kind of kicking ideas back and forth and I would jump in. And then it got to the point where they started having more serious, the company itself started to grow up a little bit. They started having more serious conversations, and instead of just hanging out with them, they would actually come by my desk and say, hey, we're about to start talking about this. Could you just sit in for a few minutes? And so that's sort of how it started. But, you know, the one thing that it also told me, you know, and think too, at that time I was just doing websites. I wasn't considering logos or full scale brand systems or anything like that. But, you know, you start to learn about it just in all those different conversations that the term website means so much. It can mean so much. There's so much variance there. You know, people ask now, you know, how much does a website cost? And that's kind of like asking how much does a car cost, right? Like, I don't know, what kind of car do you want? And so getting to sit in all those different conversations, you learn about what does a company that's at this stage need in a website versus a company that's at this stage or this stage. And you start to, you know, recognize a few patterns, learn some best practices, and that's, yeah. So I think getting involved in those conversations, and now I actually ask our clients whenever they're having even the very high level strategic meetings, you know, I usually ask them, like, let me just sit in, you know, I won't interrupt or anything, but just let me be there so that it's not a decision being made up the tree that is now, hey, we need a website that looks like this. You know, I want to know what are all the decisions that led to that, because I might be able to suggest something better.
Definitely connecting the dots, you know, knowing the business of the business, where they're looking in the future, what are their goals, because it can connect to the website hosting. That's an exclusive for right now, for those who are listening. That is very much exclusive, and we could always connect and talk about that a little bit later. But I know that Olivia has been waiting for her time to shine.
We've been waiting for her time to shine.
I'm active listening so hard. I don't remember the question. I was just like, and I was picturing Alex inside station. Like, I've been there, so I'm literally imagining it. What am I answering again, Jordan?
We're going to go back to digital marketing, life after WCE.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, people don't know your past, like life after WCE, what you were working on, how did you transition to your business that you have now?
Yeah.
Get into that. So, you know, that's
sure. Yeah. So I was at the strategic CFO during Wolff Center before Lauren. And that was really, you know, you just got to love Jim Wilkinson. Like, I came to him saying, I want to do this type of business where it's like all about customer experience and customer service. And he's like, well, I have a marketing project that I need an intern to do this summer. Don't you think that some of those skills are transferable? And now that I, you know Jim, he totally sold me. And I'm so glad he did, because he helped me build skills I never would have, I might not have actually had. So it's just so cool when you have those little things, you know, that totally change your path. But at Jim's, he wanted me to do a landing page optimization project. And so I was optimizing the website, and then but I would hear him talking about really what he wanted to do in the business, you know, not this one project, but like what he really wanted it to be. And he had so many amazing ideas. And so I started researching, okay, how do I do what he's saying? So then I went to him and was like, hey, Jim, I finished that thing you want me to do, but you're talking about all these grand visions. Like, I think that this like digital marketing stuff, literally digitalmarketer.com, Lauren can attest. I think I got Jim hooked on this website and this company that was training on digital marketing. And so he agreed, and we just started consuming the content and then doing it in the business. So he would say to me, like, you know, we're learning together. I know it just as much as you do. So we're just partners in figuring out how to, you know, implement these things. So I that was my first exposure to digital marketing. And it's funny because our product was called the Lab, the Strategic CFO Lab, but being in it was a lab in itself. You know, it was my lab of learning digital marketing. And then from there, it wasn't at a stage where it could support a full-time role. And I actually ended up, through a connection with the director, Dave, at a position with Brene Brown, who is an author, TED Talk speaker, entrepreneur, who researcher primarily in the areas of shame, courage, vulnerability, and authenticity. I haven't given her elevator pitch in a minute. but I worked for her for 2 years, and I managed her social media and her, kind of all her organic digital marketing, social, email, and that kind of thing. And that was just an amazing experience for 2 years, where I really learned about owning your voice. And like, she just knew how to communicate with her audience that she'd been building for years. And that was also just another like lab in learning how she got there, and then how she started to scale those communications through a team. And that was just, and it's such a rewarding, fascinating experience that led me back into my family's business to actually bring the marketing skills I'd learned into what we're doing. So that was me after Wolff Center. It's been a busy bee.
So what was the main thing that you learned overall from your experiences working with Mr. Jim, Brene Brown? What was a key thing that you took and brought it to your family business?
I would say, and it's funny because we're talking about digital marketing, which people think of as being so tactical. So I'm not going to give a tactical answer. It goes back to the basics of what traditional marketing's, background, like the core, which is you have to know what you stand for and know like what you are delivering to and to who, and what, resonates with them and what their needs are. And it's most of the time, my experience is really coming from a genuine place of how you can help your consumer, achieve whatever it is that what their needs are. So interestingly, there's bells and whistles. Should I be on TikTok? Should I be on paid search, organic? Like, there's all these channels, but at the end of the day, it all comes back to that very simple idea. But it's simple, but it also takes a lot of intentionality. And you hear both Alex and Lauren talking about developing like standards for their brands and the voices. And those exercises are so valuable because it actually helps you understand who you are and why you're delivering your service or product to your consumer. And if you don't have that, like, no Instagram post is going to matter, so.
And I remember Alex a little bit earlier talking about recognizing his customers and, being able to adapt. So I'm going to open this up to everyone right now in terms of how important was it to recognize your customers, your consumers, and actually opening yourself up to new consumers. How was that adapting? Because I know COVID is happening, new opportunities, new ways. And for someone who might not specialize in marketing, they're like, oh my gosh, how can I do this for my business? Maybe you guys can walk them through your experiences in terms of recognizing their customers. Anyone can go.
Sure, I'll get started. It's funny, we still label ourselves as doing all these things for early stage tech startups. In reality, that's probably 50% of our client base. The rest of it is now a mix of venture capital firms and other investment groups, small to medium-sized businesses, other startup development organizations, and partners with different marketing agencies. A lot of those were kind of a shift in the way that I've been thinking about my the way that I approach the different clients. Because the thing is that I'm so used to the world of tech, and you start off with this sort of a website and then you want to go here. Where with a venture capital firm, it's a bigger, it's not a bigger, it's a different way that you want to frame. It's a different audience. It's a different way that you want to frame what you do. You can't start off by looking scrappy. You have to look pretty established, all of those sorts of things. And so I don't know if I have a great answer of, the how. I've got some specific anecdotes that, I might be able to share.
Go ahead.
But yeah, let me think about that.
We'll come back to you if you can't think of it right now. We can always come back. I'm gonna always remember. Come back to you right now.
All right, keep me honest.
Now, Lauren, do you have any advice?
Yeah, I was just kind of starting our company a year ago. And so for me, it was how can we get a quick win as quickly as possible? And so my goal is to find other entrepreneurs that are like me. And so I literally sought out service providers that are women-owned businesses, and they were Christian. And so my first 3 clients fit those 3 criteria, and it gave me a solid foundation. And all those 3 clients are still with me. And it's been such a big blessing to have that as a safe space, but then also to have that quick win. And obviously since then, we've expanded and we have a lot of different service providers. We've included men in there. So we're not solely focused on women, but it's finding that quick win as quickly as possible to just prove to myself, like, hey, we're a valid company and we have a valid offer. And what we can do is, valuable for our clients to serve their clients better.
Now repeat that one more time for all of our listeners, creating that win, that quick win.
Yeah.
Repeat that one more time, because that was valuable. Yeah. That was spot on. I'm proud of you.
Absolutely. Finding that quick win as quickly as identifying what would be a quick win. And so for me, it's finding people that I want to work with as quickly as possible. And so I was like, I like myself. So I'll just find more me's around in the world. And so figuring out who that is, found those first 3 people, and then we were able to celebrate and build on top of that. And it's been such a big blessing to see and walk with my clients through that.
And I'm also glad that you were able to be proactive. A lot of people wait for that win, but you're like, no, I'm going to get this quick win and I'm going to continue to build on that. So I think that's another tip for those who are like looking for that win. Don't wait for it to happen. Make a way for it. So.
Yep. Just find it, make it happen, celebrate it, move on, and identify the next win and go after it.
Like it. Olivia, you last.
So I think I'm going to creep into Alex's zone here on Red Labs, but I did a lot of 3-day startup stuff, so I feel like I can kind of speak to this. We learned through entrepreneurial education, whether it was like the tech startup side or entrepreneurship books, all about like just getting in front of the market as fast as you can, and then the market, you just learn from that. Like, but there's nothing that, and I'm saying this as a student of this, not as a preacher of this, because it's not my natural state. But it all comes from doing. It's not from sitting back and analyzing, how can I perfectly find this customer? How can I, there is a time and a place for that when you're at a certain point where you can have a consulting company come in and do a SWOT analysis and show you the untapped market that you're, not hitting. But at the stage that, when you're starting out, you go like deliver your product and then you learn how that went, and then you find new customers because somebody referred you. And like Alex, I'm sure it was like, well, this isn't a company I've worked with before, but okay. And then, oh, there's more of y'all that need this type of thing. And it just all comes from doing, and then, being thoughtful enough to like see what's happening and see opportunities that for more customers or more niches. So yeah, I think Alex is about to speak to that. He's nodding a lot, so I'm gonna let him go.
I'm excited. I got it. So I've got one example of the quick win sort of scenario where I mentioned that a good mix of our revenue right now is from partnering with other agencies. What we found is that there's so many even branding agencies around town that don't do website. Like, they don't do web design, they don't do web development. And so just the fact that we have that is enough that, we've scored some really great partnerships where, we're on like the preferred vendor list for some of these pretty big agencies like Black Sheep and others, where they, they'll just loop us in whenever they're talking with one of their clients that needs a website or anything. it's like, hey, we'd be happy to do all of these things for you and create your logo and your branding and everything. And I'd also like you to meet Alex with Spacecraft, and they're going to take care of the website. And, what's great is that they're a bigger branding shop that is, working with some bigger clients, and bigger clients that, one of the downsides, I think, of branding ourselves as we work with startups is that it's not a downside. It's that I don't want to work usually with like the big corporate types of websites. It's a lot of overhead. It's a lot to manage. I don't get to be as creative, all those sorts of things. So those have been a lot of quick wins for us, is finding, and it might be unique to my space that it's a pretty collaborative, ecosystem. But I think there's value in talking with who you might think are your competitors. Another thing that that I thought of, another anecdote that is not something I learned in my own business, but I learned from one of our clients. It was actually one of the ones who was my first client, like all the way back in the station days. They are an ed tech company that sells directly to school districts. And there was one time that they brought me into one of their sales meetings back whenever they were just a team of like 5 people. Basically, they were trying to stand up a brand new product to meet the needs of this district. And so they sort of described it to me, and they had me just write some static code to make it look like it was a functioning application, and then run a demo for the school board to show them how it works and everything. And it just left such an impression. We walked into that meeting, and as we're walking in, the CEO whispers to me like, "Hey, I'm going to introduce you as our chief experience officer," or something like that. And then had me run this demo for the school district and play like, I made it so that I would type in my email address or something and click login. And really it's just a hyperlink to like the next page. There was no like back-end system or anything, but we played it like it was a real application that's ready to sell, or at least is like in development and almost ready to sell, just to get their buy-in. And then afterwards, my client told the school district, this is still going to take a little bit of time. And so what we want from you guys is we want you to help fund the development of the rest of this, get it all the way through, out of beta and out into the marketplace. And then once it's out in the marketplace, you'll get it free for a year. And so it just left such an impression on me on how do you create like this, just the littlest bit possible to get the meeting and get the yes, and then figure it out as you go.
That's the quick win right there.
The quick win.
That's the quick win.
Yeah.
Being able to be proactive. I think, you're acting as if you already won it. You already won the victory, and you just move on to the next concept. Way to play it off. I don't even want to know the school district, but way to go.
Yeah, one of our marketing partners actually says community over competition. And so that was exactly what Alex, I just kept thinking about that. And that's something that we also do. We partner with marketing agencies that may have a copywriter, but they just need a little more help. And, that's the name of the game, and surviving, especially in this COVID world. It's like everyone's out for their own. So why not just partner and band together? And it's a whole lot less lonely out there.
Yeah.
Going back to the importance of partnership, if there's someone who's listening and they're iffy about finding the right partnership, what are some tips that you can give to them in terms of, I know it's open-ended in terms of they might have a different business than you guys have. How can they find the right partnership? It might be iffy. Maybe you partner with someone and it might not go as well. How do you take that leap?
I mean, I think just as the same thing of like a quick win. I think you have to, like, I would say, I mean, they can probably speak to this better than I can, but you have to like have a trial, an intentional trial probably of like, this is what we're going to try this out. And we're going to like, this is what our expectations are. This is what our expectations are. This is actually my Brene Brown work coming out. Let's talk about our expectations. Let's talk about our boundaries. And then we're going to circle back afterwards. And we're going to check in throughout and talk about what's working for us, what's not. And if you can't get through just some active communication with a potential partner, then that it won't ever work. So you have to, I think that's probably what it all comes down to.
Good point.
Yeah, and I would even say go get coffee with them. because if you don't even like the person that you're working with, there's no point in pursuing it. And so all of our partnerships that we've built have always started with, whether it's a Zoom meeting now or a coffee meeting, where we just get to know each other on a personal level. And then if you decide that, hey, we can trust them, move into that trial period. And we've definitely learned a lot of lessons. We just closed off one client where it's like, we are never working with that type of client ever again. And we learned a whole lot, but now we're on clients 2, 3, 4, and 5 because of that.
Yeah. Can I just say I agree on all of it. Make sure that you like the people and go for the trial run. I feel like those are the two secrets.
Now moving forward, because I think that was a good tie-in to what's next for you guys with regards to expansion, hiring employees during this time, management, whatever you want to, tie into your business is open-ended. So we can go from there. Whoever wants to talk first. Olivia, I know you spoke first. Whoever wants to go, we can lead in from there.
Okay, I'll go. So we're at an interesting point where up until now we've been doing, I started with web design and development on strictly like websites. I then hired Ricky, who brought the logo game and the illustrations and the graphics and all those sorts of things. And then I hired Zara, who brought full stack web development so that we can build web apps and everything. And we recently, not recently realized, but I think I finally just kind of came to grips with reality that is not a sustainable part of our business, the app development thing. Which goes back to I think kind of this, similar to the topic of collaboration over competition. It's in our best effort to specialize in what we do best and, work with others in the ecosystem who are able to do those other parts. And so he is Zara is, the first employee that I've ever let go. And we're giving him plenty of time to roll off the company. And what's interesting is that I've sort of made that announcement at the same time that we're actually hiring a new interface designer. Totally independent choices. It's not like now that we have this money, we can go and hire someone else. It's just, this is the side of the business that is core to what we do. And so it's sort of interesting. I think with this new person, we'll have a lot more capacity to do what we do best, and we'll be a lot more efficient and profitable and everything. And I think that's, before hiring this role, we were not struggling, but in fact, I think by most accounts, we're more profitable than other similar businesses. But this is really, I think, going to give us a lot of firepower to grow even quicker.
How hard was it to let go of someone? Because obviously, you might not find that in books when you're faced with that person. How hard was it to let someone?
It was hard. Yeah, it was hard. I mean, we're friends, and I sort of jumped on, and it was like this, right? It kind of sucked that we had to do it over Zoom, and it wasn't something I was able to do in person. But I remember kind of jumping in and sort of stumbling over my words, and I had like all of these thoughts lined up, which this was also the wrong role for him, right? If he wants to learn development, and that's not something that I do or can teach him, he's not in a place where he can grow. And frankly, as a developer, he could make more money at a proper development shop. And so I start kind of going through these points, and at one point he sort of jumped in and he's like, "Hey man, you're good. Like, don't worry about it." I can't even really say I'm surprised, because it kind of felt like you and the rest of the company are focusing on all of these different things, and mine was just, my projects were just sort of separate to what the rest of the business is doing. And he's like, "So it's fine. We're fine. It makes sense." And I think there's other places where I think I'd be happier in a role where I get to do more of like the back end databasing. He's like, "That's the stuff that I love anyway." And so it's funny, it was really hard going into that conversation, and then really quickly became sort of a relief and feel good. And things are good. He's still with us for now, because we want to be able to, I gave him enough time to wrap up all of his current projects, let our clients know that, beyond this date, we're not going to be supporting the applications. And also gives him plenty of time to figure out what's next.
I think what I'm listening to and I'm hearing is being able to assess what's going on and saying what best fits the needs of the company. And it's hard to let someone go, but it makes it easier and more of a relief when someone else understands that maybe this is not my purpose in this company, and learning how to move on and adapt.
Yeah. And I made it clear too that, just so we are absolutely on the same page, this has nothing to do with your performance or anything like that. This will no longer be a seat at the company.
I'm glad that it was easier, kind of, that person was your friend as well. So hopefully y'all are still friends. I'm pretty sure y'all are, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't friends whenever he was hired, but we've got a pretty, like, just at Spacecraft, we've got a pretty close friend sort of relationship.
Okay, well, moving forward to Olivia. What's next for your family business?
What's next? Oh my gosh. So in terms of expansion, we want to expand our field team. So our actual technicians that are out in the field. We will have to also expand our support and office team as a result of that. But one thing we've really tasked ourselves with coming into COVID was how to do more with less, and how to cut out inefficiencies in our company and in our overhead structure. So if we want to be this, with Just Fix It, we want to be not the most expensive, but not obviously not the cheapest either. So we're really trying to find this space that we think homeowners are looking for, that doesn't have the price tag of the huge overhead, but you can still deliver the great service because you're innovating and you're being efficient, you're using technology. So we want to grow our customer base, and we're trying to grow our field team with that as well. But with our office team, we're trying to just be smarter, and which is kind of hard. When you look at the state of the country, you want to, being in this position, I'm sure Alex felt that as well. You want to just hire people. I wish we could just hire everybody, because I want people to not be in struggle, and yeah, so hopefully as we continue to grow our business, we'll be able to invest more into taking young people into the trades, which is a vision that my family has for kind of either starting a trade school or having some sort of program where we can bring people up into the trades through apprenticeships and things like that. So that's kind of in the future, but for now it's just capturing market share in Houston with our new business.
I think that's awesome with regards to, y'all are actually thinking about others in terms of hiring people, and actually in the future providing trade school. So being able to, wow.
That's the plan. There's definitely a huge, there's no paths for young people into vocations, because, shop, all the shop, wood shop, all of these things where kids work with their hands in schools, those things don't exist anymore. And it's really, there's this gap between I can go on forever. It's just really hard for young people to get into the trades, yet we need so many people in the trades. So we just want to be a part of that.
And I definitely agree on the fact that there is not one path. You don't necessarily have to go to college when you could specialize in something else. It doesn't necessarily matter. But I think for you guys' business, finding that price point with COVID and homeowners, that's tough. I mean, what you represent, your value, but what is going to be a good price point for your consumers? It's one of those.
Yeah. I know. We just talked to it just felt like talking to the market and we did some surveying as well. Like we paid for some surveys to see what people expect to pay for AC replacements in our market. Yeah, and we also have an amazing new team member that's our general manager is a third generation air conditioning person, so he knows the market, like really knows the market for this business. But yeah, it's just all trying and seeing how people respond.
So, for those who are listening, remembering that, know your market, actually get in contact with your consumers or people who are in the field that have experience, like what would be a good price point. This is not unforeseen territory with COVID, but, actually being able to network with others and being proactive. Like you guys are the perfect example of being proactive in your field, talking to other people, learning, adapting, and then pushing it into what you're specializing in. I'm not the best marketer, but I guess we have people like you who are, and we need those people. What?
We try.
Y'all are doing a good job.
Lauren, did you get a marketing degree? I didn't get a marketing degree. I only got the entrepreneurship degree.
Oh, well then
I got just entrepreneurship degree. I didn't have any.
I got my marketing degree.
Jim was my marketing
strategic CFO. Yeah.
Well,
was my marketing degree.
I got accounting.
That's a perfect thing of telling those who potentially are listening, you don't have to have a marketing degree. You don't need that.
No.
Okay.
Lauren, you go for it.
I mean, Olivia and I could be walking billboards for digitalmarketer.com. I talk all the time, and I still use some of the stuff that I learned from.
Shout out Ryan Dice.
Yep. To get and be sponsored at this point.
Yeah.
But as far as our marketing plans going forward, I mean, one of the big things is because we're only a year into our company is really getting our documentation down. Now that we've kind of passed the point, and we passed it quite a few months ago, but past the point where we're changing our processes every 30 seconds, or at least that's what it felt like. We've kind of now got a system to where we're able to manage a complete remote team. We've been 100% remote from the very foundation. We have Houston, San Antonio, Philadelphia, and now Ohio. So we have team members, 2 different time zones, 3 different states now. And so really getting that documentation so that our quality control is there, because copy can so easily go one way or the other, and we want to make sure that we have that pulse on what we're delivering at all times. So documentation is a big thing, and Olivia's probably going to laugh at me right now, but we're building passive income, and so kind of a lab type thing. I mean, Jim's got it down, digital marketers got it down, and so we're trying to help people optimize their time in producing content or their sales copy, because the 2 reasons why people come to us aren't because they need copy, it's because they don't have time to write or they suck at writing. Every single client can fit into one of those 2 things, and so we want to help them either get better at writing if they don't want to pay for a copywriter, or optimize their time and speed up, because we've had some clients come to us spending 8 hours on a blog, and it just blew me away, and they still weren't done with the blog either. And so we're trying to get into that process. If they're not quite ready for us, we can still help them optimize their time.
Wow. 8 hours?
8 hours. I was shocked when she told me that. And we've been doing her blog since December of last year, and it's been a blast. I've learned so much, and she's in the health and wellness space, but I've learned so much about health and wellness, about her life, and it's been really cool to just see her voice grow and just see her community grow and her business grow. And we consistently ask, okay, what are your clients looking like this month? Have you seen any sales growth? Because copy without a goal or content without a goal is useless. So we always want to make sure, again, having that pulse on, is this actually doing anything? And if it's not doing anything, then what do we need to do to pivot to make sure it's servicing your sales funnel?
I believe the 8 hours. I'm in the middle of writing a blog post now, and so far it's only taking me 2.5 months.
Oh my gosh. Sounds like we need to have a meeting.
I'm gonna say that, Lauren. Y'all need to connect.
We totally do. This is actually, every website project we dive into, begins with a lack of content. So we do need to talk.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing is we see a lot of web designers or people that pay for these really expensive websites, and there's not a single word of copy. It's all Lauren Epson. And then even if they do have copy on there, it doesn't speak to their voice. And so that goes back to like what we talk about, building that brand voice. And it's exactly what Alex builds with his brand style guides and making sure that visually you look as a cohesive unit.
Yeah, let's get coffee.
Yeah, I was gonna make sure y'all get next after this, and we're gonna also get everyone's contact information again. So for those who are listening, we're gonna end it specifically with you guys' last minute pitch for those who are looking for the businesses, the type of businesses that y'all have. We can connect. They can email you guys. So I think an email address would be great. Instagram, social media. I want them to be able to connect with you guys because y'all have a wealth of knowledge, and maybe, maybe have a potential mentee, or if y'all are available during COVID, that might be helpful. If y'all are open to having new mentee and people that y'all can inspire and contact. So we're going to get to Alex. What are some last things that you might want to tell people about your business and ways they can connect with you?
If anyone watching this, happens to be starting a business or looking to rebrand what they've got, let's just talk, because I'm not shy about if I feel like it's, not the right time to be hiring an agency like mine. I'm not shy in saying, actually, if I were you, I would just do it myself, this way or something. And so, happy to help think through, like, if it's the right time to go through a rebrand, build a new website. And if it is the right time, then, of course, I'm happy to help in that way too.
And Miss Lauren?
Yeah, absolutely. I just got finished up. I was a class of 2020 mentee. I know Olivia's WCE mentee as well. So I'm happy to talk about any communications with anyone, because words are your most important assets, and you need to make sure that they're properly formed so that you can get those customers and bring those in and build a business around them.
Please do not be scared as well for those who might want to connect with these brilliant-minded individuals. They are friendly, they're open, they're on social media, so make sure you guys connect. And last but not least, we have Miss Olivia.
Hi, yeah, so just DM me if you want to talk. That's probably DM me on Instagram, private message me on Facebook. I'm on every social media that there is. I'm not on Snapchat, but that's fine. That's another story for another day. So if you're looking for, if you're somebody that knows marketing is going to be part of their career, whether it's as an entrepreneur or if that's the career path that they're picking, obviously, like Lauren and I had very untraditional starts, I would say, non-traditional starts in getting into this. So like, regardless of what stage you're at, whether it's like, just out of Wolff Center or, starting to manage more of a budget and just figuring out like that aspect of it, because that's something I was completely thrown into after doing organic, no budget social media marketing to like, okay, now I have to like buy TV and stuff. So any questions on that, I'm totally open to, any value that I can offer. And then, if you're a homeowner, and you need your AC replaced because it's old and it's time, we have some amazing new specials for our new customers. So let me know. And if you have any AC or electrical needs in your home, just, again, literally DM me or Google one of the company names and just call us and say you're a friend of Olivia's, and we'll take good care of you.
We will also have information with regards to their information, just in case y'all did not get that, on the Wolff Center for Entrepreneurship Alumni Network, Facebook, social media, Instagram as well. You can make sure y'all follow. I think the biggest thing is when you follow our network, you'll be able to connect, message, or if you have any other information, we'll be here to connect you with the right people. This is our first episode, and it feels as if, wow, it went by extremely fast. So I appreciate you guys for coming, stopping by. I know y'all are busy people, but thank y'all again. We appreciate you guys on behalf of Wolff Center for Entrepreneurship Alumni Networks. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
Great hosting.
Thank you, Jordan.
I tried. I don't know.
You did great. I love it. This is a great concept. So I'm excited to learn from the future events.